violent, radical activists who have tried to silence her. The left has declared a war on women. It is a sad day in our nation's history when so many people cannot properly define the word woman. And so many of my Democratic colleagues deny the basic biological truth that there are two sexes and only women can get pregnant. The Democrats' agenda is dangerous for women. In their quest to promote gender ideology, they have upended women's rights and basic common sense. Republicans are the party of women. We believe that women are different from men, and as such, deserve legal protection. The Women's Bill of Rights affirms the biological differences between men and women, protects sex-segregated spaces, affirms the importance of using mother and father in written law, and acknowledges the significant achievements women have made in education, in the workforce, and on the playing field. The Women's Bill of Rights is necessary to help protect women from sharing locker rooms or domestic violence shelters with biological men. It also protects important provisions like Title IX that give women equal opportunity in school and in athletics. This bill is more important today than ever. It's time for Congress to take a stand to protect women's rights, and I'm calling on the U.S. House and U.S. Senate to pass this legislation for our daughters, our granddaughters, and all future generations of women who do not deserve to have opportunities stripped away from them because of their biological sex. I'm going to be introducing Riley Gaines soon, but first I will have the Congress members come up because they have committee hearings to go to. But I want to tell you a little bit about Riley. She's with the Independence Women Forum. She recently graduated from the University of Kentucky, where she was a 12-time All-American swimmer. Riley competed and tied with transgender swimmer Lia Thomas at their NCAA championships. And since then, Riley has been outspoken on why allowing men in women's sports is harmful to women. But before we get to Riley, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Representative Diana Harshberger, who's a co-sponsor of this bill. Diana.
Listen, it is an honor to be here today, and I know this podium's tall and I'm short, but you know what? Dynamite comes in small packages, and I'll put it to you this way. You know, I've been a pharmacist for 36 years, and I can absolutely tell you, you cannot change a person's DNA. And I can absolutely define what a biological woman is, and I have done that on numerous occasions, and with no bones about it. So thank you for the courage that you show every time you get up to speak, because you put yourself out there, young lady, and you are a role model to young women all over this country and around the world too. And it's not easy to get up like you're doing, like Debbie and I and our other colleagues are doing to fight this satanic lie is what it is. So I am from Tennessee, and we are in the process of putting that Bill of Rights for women, at state level. So I'm a mother and I'm a grandmother, and I am proud to be an original co-sponsor of the Women's Bill of Rights. And for men competing in women's sports, trespassing in our bathrooms, to invading women's domestic violence centers, the woke gender mafia are launching an assault on women's rights. And the fact that we must stand before you today and state that men who pretend to be women are not in fact women is nothing short of ridiculous. It's really a waste of our time as members of Congress to have to do this, to defend our womanhood. This truly is a statement of how unhinged and out of touch with the reality the left has become. This legislation will reaffirm basic biological facts and legal protections afforded to women under federal law. This resolution is a win for women, our conservative values, and common sense. Because, you know, Mark Twain said it best, common sense is not common, and I'll add that it's in short supply in D.C. And we're going to save these women's unique place in society. The radical left and gender extremists are putting women in danger, but we must protect each other from gender extremists who seek to destroy all the promise we made. So don't hesitate, Dad, to come and seek me out if you need backup, okay? Ron, you've got a bunch of people here who support you and what you stand for. Thank you for your courage to speak out for young women of all ages. Thank you. Debbie, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Diana. I really appreciate the co-sponsorship. It's so important. And next up is Representative Ralph Norman from South Carolina. Ralph?
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Diana, for putting this legislation up. I wish all of you could have heard Riley this morning at our conservative caucus meeting where she laid out what she is doing. And I will say it in one word: she has courage. She has courage to do what she's doing. She's got a great family. Brad, her father's here. And I just want to say this is very simple. This is good versus evil. That's all that can be said, good versus evil. She represents good. She represents the Christian values and is willing to speak out. I mean, who would have thought in Congress we would have had to define a man and a woman? Who would have thought that a Supreme Court justice could not define what a woman is? A biological man, biological women, end of story. So, Riley, I just want to thank you for your courage. I look forward to getting behind this legislation. And, Riley, you have got millions of people that you speak for, and I just want to thank you again. I'd like to call up RSC Chair Kevin Hearn.
Thanks, Rob. Debbie, Diana, thank you for doing this. Riley, I was going to say, you know, you remind me of a story that just happened to me not too long ago. I was invited to go speak to 40 college Republicans, and I was told by the school that I couldn't be political. And they talked about my life, and then one of the students made a fatal mistake and asked me about what I thought about transgenderism. And I thought, how do you answer this without being political? And you were an example of what my response was. And my response to them was, while you're sitting in this room asking a question quietly in a pit, in a classroom, there are people like Riley that are out there actually doing something about it. And that's what it's about. The left has succumbed to wokeism. It's destroying our schools, it's destroying our children, and it's destroying our workplaces. You know, the woke culture tells you biology doesn't matter, and that science is wrong. There's no difference between a man and a woman, and we all know that's an absolute lie. They've allowed critical race theory to invade our schools and indoctrinate our children, and fortunately we have states around this country that are pushing back. But then we see what's going on right now. They've allowed grown men to call themselves a woman and take athletic opportunities, scholarships, and championships from real women, like Riley, who have worked their entire life to achieve a dream, only to see the left, the Democrat Party, support this radical idea. And all the while, they call themselves feminism. You know, this is ridiculous. If you think about it, this Congress, the American people, had the women's suffrage movement that occurred some 100 years ago and fought for the political rights of women, of biological women. The 19th Amendment was a hard-fought battle led by women and sparked by decades of progress to succeed in America. The woke agenda is destroying this fight. They want you to not remember history. They want you to think about sending American women back to the 19th century. Where are these feminists? Where are they today? Are they afraid? I hope you see this. I hope you respond to this. Why aren't they standing up against the greatest attack on women's rights in a century? Probably for the simple crime of saying a man is not a woman has been targeted with some of the most hateful, most violent attacks from the left. I'm proud of you. I started out saying I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for standing your ground. for being brave in the face of such strong hatred. She's stronger than every single so-called feminist on the left. The Women's Bill of Rights will protect women like Riley and ensure biological women continue to succeed in sports and in the workplace and in anything they pursue. And for a granddad of a 2-month-old granddaughter, people like Riley will protect those opportunities for futures to come. And like Debbie said, we call on the House, the Senate, and the Democrats who care about the future of women to come together and pass this bill. And I'm so proud to support it, Debbie. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Riley, thank you. It takes a lot of courage doing what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah, next up is Representative Claudia Tenney from New York. And I just want to tell the members if they have time to stick around because we're going to do a photo with Riley after. Unless, do members have to leave now? Should we do the photo now?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do a quick photo, sorry. Let's do a quick photo. Riley in the middle. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Burgess, thank you. All right. How do we want to stand up here? Let's stand up here. Women's Bill of Rights, there we go. Protecting women. Perfect, we good? All right, fantastic, all right. Claudia, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I want to especially thank you, Debbie, for reintroducing this bill, and I'm proud to be an original co-sponsor. I'm also a woman athlete, and everything my colleagues have said is so important. And thank you to Riley. I think the most important thing is we live in this soundbite world, is to sit and listen to what Riley has to say. I recently joined Riley in one of her appearances in Buffalo, New York, and we were expecting some of the similar treatment that she got in San Francisco. Thankfully, New Yorkers came into the room, and I think everybody was just stunned by her story and the unfairness in it. And this isn't about politics; it's about common sense. And Riley talked about inclusiveness, but also protecting the rights of women. And I know Kevin, her and our colleague just referenced New York State and the women who fought for women's suffrage, people who are enshrined in our capital, like Susan B. Anthony, who was a woman Republican. The Republicans are the ones who actually brought us women's rights. Interesting, I brought Burgess Owens up to my district. Little did he know that Harriet Tubman, among others, were from my region. Her home is there. And the Republicans fought the battle for the abolitionists. So that's where ground zero is. And here we are again, taking the Republicans to stand up. Is it political? No, it shouldn't be. But Riley's story is so important when you listen to it. And again, these sound bites are terrible, but when you talk about a country that is founded on equal rights for all, equal justice, we fought to get Title IX. I was a woman athlete. I didn't have the full access to Title IX like women do today. And now all of a sudden to say someone like Riley, who, when you hear her story, that she started out as 4 years old as a swimmer. Now we are moms out here. Imagine, she said, by the time she was in 2nd grade, she was spending 2 hours a day swimming in the pool. Imagine getting a 2nd grader in a pool for 2 hours. That's how committed and devoted she was. And her story is so interesting. And look, we are completely accepting of people who choose a different lifestyle. But when it comes to women's sports, there is a difference. And Riley points that out in her story, and she'll probably tell a little bit of that today. But some of this stuff is just really beyond science. This is not science. This is a way of undermining women, and we are so pleased that Debbie has put this bill in. It's an honor to be co-sponsor along with everyone else on this bill to protect women, and protect women's sports, protect their daughters, protect their grandchildren of the future. And we're just grateful to you and Riley for her courage. And we know you take a lot of heat out there. I shudder reading her Twitter feed sometimes at the abuse she takes. But that's what it takes to fight the fight. And Susan B. Anthony and Lucretia Mott and Elizabeth Cady Stanton all fought that fight. No one thought we would get the rights that we had. And kudos to you for really being out there. It's not easy. And so we're behind you. It's so nice to have your family here. And we just wish you the best. And we thank Debbie again. What a great job. Thank you for bringing this bill to the floor. and we look forward to supporting it. Thanks so much, everyone. Representative Malfa from California.
Thank you, Claudia. Well, I'm proud to stand here today, next to Debbie Lesko, and especially next to Riley Gaines, and her father, Brad, who's here today, being that rock, being that anchor for her in this battle. And having had a chance to spend time with Riley on several occasions here, partly at the behest of another great Riley, who I was fortunate to have on my staff, who was a great Pac-12 swimmer. What an amazing young woman she is. She's in the trenches fighting the fight for Title IX right now. Indeed, this is all of our fight, because as we see around here, when listening to Riley and what we saw with that previous piece of legislation to protect women's sports in Title IX, that not one single Democrat in the House of Representatives could find a way to vote yesterday. What's going on here? We hear a lot of talk about women's issues, especially during campaigns around here, equal pay. Well, of course, we're all 100% for equal pay and equal opportunity, education, everything. But where are they on this issue? Where are they on women's rights to be able to associate in their sports in a safe atmosphere and not have to deal with a man in the locker room, a man taking away their opportunities for scholarship, for trophies, for wins, for that feeling of ebullience when you have won something that you worked all your life for, all those many hours as a second grader in the pool, but all those years missing Christmas, missing holidays, missing proms and all that such to get to what you want to achieve. Being taken away because of spineless athletic directors and people in the NCAA, maybe even in the Olympics as it goes along here. Imagine the Olympics tainted by such a situation as a man lining up on the starting blocks at the track meet or in the swimming blocks or what have you. Figure skating, we've seen how that was. So this is very important that with Debbie's bill that I'm proud to be a co-sponsor of, continue to be pushed forward because this really is a struggle of good versus evil. And for the people that have allowed themselves to be duped by what's going on here, you need to just take a time out and look inward at what you're causing here. If we can't defend our girls, our women, for their ability to associate, whether it's in athletics or even in the job force, then we're really, really messed up in this country because we have it really boils down to being a political outcome they're after. This can't be anything but politics, some kind of coalition of strange activity that seems to be somehow a way to win elections. You really boil it down to that. That's what it is. So Riley's here. She doesn't really want to be called brave so much or courageous, although she is. She's here with a sense of duty. Because when she had to share the trophy, they didn't even have a coin flip for that. They just said, we're just going to give it to the other person. Then what did that tell her for all her years and her parents for delivering her to all those practices, all that effort? It said she didn't matter that much. And that's criminal. So this is a battle we must win on behalf of the hearts and souls and the dreams and goals that our women and girls have in this country. So thank you, Debbie, for bringing the legislation. Thank you, Riley, for hanging in there, putting off what would have been other parts of your adult life to stand in this fire, in this gap. Thank you. I'd like also now to bring up my colleague from Tennessee, Annie Owens.
Thank you, Congressman Lesko and Riley, for leading the charge on this important issue. You know, as the father of a daughter of student athletes, we thank you. And I'm appalled at the radical left's attempts to erase the rights of women and to erase your hard work. And when Senator Marsha Blackburn asked a Supreme Court justice, as Ralph had said, what is a woman? She couldn't respond. And it was so ridiculous they made a movie about it. What does this world come to? That a man can be anything other than what they were born. We've got to fight back against this agenda. It's a direct assault on the family and the values that we all uphold. The core tenets of our country and our founding and our Constitution are moral people who believe in right and wrong, who believe in truth. If you're born a female, you're a female. If you're born a male, you're a male. And so to the men pretending to be a woman, I'm going to tell you a secret your doctor won't tell you. A truth that your friends and associates are afraid to tell you. That if you're a man pretending to be a woman, if you're a dude in a dress, you're still a dude, and you'll never be a woman. Riley, on behalf of my daughter, who's an athlete, on behalf of my wife, who is a fan, by the way, to all the daughters and wives around the world, you're proof that one person can make a difference. You're proof that light and darkness can illuminate truth. We are with you. We will fight with you. We will never back down. And we will not stop until we right the wrong of this evil, radical, leftist agenda. Riley.
Thank you, Andy, I really appreciate it. And next up is Anna Helena Luna from Florida, and then after that, Burgess Owens. Anna.
It's pretty crazy that in today's day and age that we have to sponsor legislation to protect women. You know, you hear a lot, especially with the younger generation, about women's rights, a woman's right to bodily autonomy, this, that, and the other. But the fact is that here in Washington, there is actually a movement, and it exists within the culture war as well, to erase women. They try to undermine our abilities to be mothers. They tell us that we can't have careers and that we are less than, and then when it comes to sports, when it comes to even the modeling industry, the makeup industry, they seek to erase us altogether. And as one of the younger members of Congress, you know, to see a young woman like Riley fighting the way that she's fighting, not only is it refreshing, but it really causes me, and I think many of my colleagues, to take a step back and think how far our country has fallen from grace, because that's really what this is. You know, there's a few things that women cannot do. They can't have children. As you guys know, I'm pregnant right now, and if anyone wants to debate that, I'd be happy to have the conversation with them about how it works. But, but they cannot have periods, and they cannot do what we can do. They are different chromosomes. I mean, everyone has said it. Biologically, they're simply different. But what you are doing today takes an immense amount of courage. I also, like Representative Claudia Tenney, have checked out your Twitter feed, and I know that you take an immense amount of hate. And to be clear, this is not anti-trans. This is simply standing up for women, which is something that I think more of our colleagues up here in Washington should be more familiar with. And so with that being said, I just want to give you a round of applause because you really are the true winner of that race and that competition. I think more people should acknowledge that, but you won that race and we're happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. Where's your dad?
Thank
you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I have 5 daughters, and I tell you what, we had the Secretary of Education come in, and I meant to say this at the very end, is that when I get on my knees last night, I was going to thank God that my 5 girls had a man in the house that would protect them and allow them to grow and do things that we do. So, Debbie, thank you, and Riley, thank you so much. There's so many things that kind of went through my head. I was very fortunate to be raised in a remarkable time. My dad was a World War II vet. And so at 18, 19 years old, these young men were running toward the battle. Not that they weren't afraid, they just had so much more faith and understanding that they meant a difference to our country. I was growing up in the age of segregation and civil rights. So I remember college kids when I was 12 years old, walking non-violently toward the battle, knowing that anything could happen, but they would sit there and take it. I think that's the American way. We run towards freedom, whatever it takes. And this is going to be a period of time we're going to look back at history and realize, my goodness, we show our country, number one, what courage looks like and what bullies and cowards look like. What the left wants us to do is we want cowardly men. When a man cannot stand up and fight for women's rights, fight for the opportunity for fairness, that a man can actually say I'm a woman and then go in there and steal away the rights of women. There's nothing cowardice. What you see is now the social media which spawns cowardice. That's why you get that kind of stuff from cowardly people who cannot stand in front of you, or they come in gangs, or they put on hoods, or put on black masks. Our country is not built by cowards. It's built by visionary people who believe in meritocracy, who believe in fairness, who says, let's give everyone their lane to achieve their American dream. And I'll tell you what, if we were to sit back and not appreciate what women have always been for our country. I was very blessed. I grew up in a time that my parents, my dad particularly taught me, if you want to be a successful man, you want to have a legacy, you want to one day look back on life and say it was all worth it. It's very simple. You learn to love God, country, family, respect women, and authority, period. You do that, you got it down. And what we're doing now is we have a hard left, godless left, Marxists, atheists, people who do not believe in God. We're trying to turn our country upside down. We're not going to let it happen. And I want to thank every single one of you. This is the force that's going to make the difference. And my colleagues, thank you guys for doing everything you do. Let me just say this and this opportunity to say this for all the moms in here. You guys, to say this, you're the foundation of our nation. It comes down to compassion, love, service. We look to you to what it really looks like. So thank you, mothers. Thank you, women, for paying the price. Thank you for the courage you see today. And just know this America is waking up. We got this. You know, as Al Davis used to say, just one baby. We got this done. Okay, we're going to make it. Thank you so much.
Wow, I really want to thank all of my colleagues. Such great words that they talked about. And many of us that are in Congress often wonder, why are we here? You know, it's a frustrating place. We're always in battles. We don't always get our legislation through. But this is really an important issue. And not only for the sports aspect of it, but just everything. You know, in my local school district, two of the 5 school board members are trying to make sure that boys don't go in the women's bathrooms. They got defeated. It was a 3-2 vote, and it's because the girls have went to the school board members and said, I'm holding off going to the bathroom because there's guys going into the bathrooms. I mean, and when you have that, and when you have men that identify as women going into women prison spaces and raping women, which has happened. The left says this isn't happening, that it's make-believe. No, this is happening, folks. We need to protect women. And when my Democratic colleagues, when they were in power and control, and in the rules of the House, they said you can't say mother. You could say, what was it, birthing unit? Birthing persons. A birthing person. How rude is that? I don't want to be called a birthing person. I am a mother. I'm a grandmother to 5 kids. You know, this is insulting. This is insulting to women. And as a number of my colleagues have said, what is wrong with all of these women out there that were fighting for women's rights and continue to fight for women's rights, but they don't stand up for women today? So I want to thank you very much, Riley, for standing up for women. This is important. What you're doing is so important. Everybody tells you how important it is, but you won't know what impact you have on other girls and other women and what your future is, because I think you have a really great future. I learned a long time ago when I started going to school board meetings and people started criticizing me for questioning things, and I went home crying to my husband. But you know, it built up a strength in me. And I think God is building up a strength in you to fight for the things that are right. And that's why we care so much about you. And now I want to introduce you. Come up and speak, Riley. We greatly appreciate it.
First of all, of course, Representative Lesko, I want to thank you for sponsoring the bill and all of the amazing co-sponsors and men and women who spoke today on behalf of the Women's Bill of Rights, on behalf of thanking me. Representative Norman, Representative Lamalfa, who said, I don't like to be called brave because in my mind, I can't fathom how it is brave to say that men and women are different. I can't fathom that requires courage. When I think of courage, I think of the people on the front lines. I think of those, our law enforcement, I think of those people. I'm not brave for taking this stance, but I of course understand it does require a sense of bravery, seeing what I've seen, facing what I've faced. And I know the representatives in the room understand that as well because you voluntarily put yourself in this position. That being said, this is never something I could have asked for. This is never something I foresaw for myself. I was thrust into this position, unfortunately, by being unfairly put in a competition against a mediocre male who beat every other woman in the nation, which was a heartbreaking feeling to know that we didn't matter. Our feelings, our privacy, our safety, our dignity, our mental health, I mean, the list can go on, that didn't matter. What mattered to the NCAA, what matters now to the left, which I think it's ironic because we've brought up many times how this narrative has flipped, but what mattered to the left was protecting the feelings of the male at the expense of our own. I wish I had more time to talk about my story and what that looks like because there's a lot of pieces that are really, really important outside of just the fairness of the competition in the locker room, but the silencing that we've dealt with as women to try to get us to be quiet. It's 2023, we have the right to vote as women, we can own property, but we have to plead and beg for privacy in our locker room so we're not violated. And when you do plead and beg, you're called a bigot. You're called transphobic for wanting safety, for wanting that sense of vulnerability in areas where you undress, which is wild, and I think it shows the true state of our nation. But today there is no law that really defines sex-based terms like woman and like female, and as we've mentioned, until recently, no one would have thought these terms would ever need clarification. But as we've seen lately, unelected bureaucrats and judges and officials and administrators have altered the legal meaning of these sex-based terms to interpret it as they want. And to reflect that identity rather than biology, and to require that men and women be treated not just equal but the same. The public knows what a woman is, and it's time that our laws did too. And again, I want to thank everyone in this room for being here. Of course, that's the first step in passing this. But defining what a woman is, it shouldn't be political. This is not something that should be as polarizing as it has become, but it is necessary. The Women's Bill of Rights, it's been passing among the states. Kansas was the first state with passing with bipartisan support, which is phenomenal, and to override the governor's anti-woman veto. And we're excited to see other states, Tennessee as well, which is my home, pushing this forward, Oklahoma. Hopefully more will join on. Earlier this week, there were, I think, 16 or so attorney generals who have come together in support of this as well. To be totally honest, what this bill does, it just gives transparency. It doesn't prevent any laws from being passed for any other protected group. It doesn't change any pre-existing laws. It simply defines the word woman. It codifies the term. So in bills like the Fairness in Women's Sports Bill, that bill is phenomenal, but what longevity does it have if we can't define the word woman? And that's what this does. It gives longevity to bills such as the sports bill. I appreciate, again, all of you being here. This is crucial to ensure that women, we're entitled to our privacy and our safety and our fairness and our equal opportunity and our respect. So again, thank you for the support. I'm speaking for so much more than just myself. It might seem as if I've been a lone voice and a lone face fighting for this, but seeing what I saw at that national championships, I speak for every single girl there, every single girl who felt uncomfortable in that locker room, every single girl, especially the 9th and 17th place finishers who missed out on being named an All-American by one place. I speak for them. And so to have the opportunity to stand up here, I couldn't be more grateful. Let's get this done.
Yes, sir. Thank you. everyone for coming today, and I want to thank the Independent Women's Forum, I want to thank Riley, and I want to thank all of my congressional colleagues for helping get this bill passed. Thank you. Have a great day.